The FBI has finally released the actual 302 of their conversation with Michael Flynn that he's accused of lying in. And I think there's some questions in here we have to ask ourselves whether or not Flynn actually lied. If this 302 is the proof of him lying, then I think that we could charge tons of people all throughout that have lied through Congress, FBI, and other places who have said things like, I don't recall or I can't quite remember. Because basically they're saying that means he lied to the FBI. At least that's my reading of this. So just a quick rundown of what's going on. Flynn's accused of lying. He was interviewed by these FBI agents. The reason he was interviewed is there was a crime that was committed. That crime was someone leaked a conversation that Flynn had with his counterpart in Russia, Kislyak, to the press. The press didn't start putting out, oh, someone in Trump's administration is dealing with these shady Russians that tried to steal the election, and started giving details of this conversation. Now, the only reason the conversation was recorded, we're told, is that these intel agencies were always recording Kislyak because he's a Russian official. But the actual leaking of that conversation of an American diplomat or incoming American diplomat to the press to make him look bad is a serious crime. Yet Mueller and Comey haven't been interested in charging it. That's the first serious crime that we know. No one's been charged. I wonder why. Well, because like always, we see that any crimes that are directed against people in the Trump administration or in favor of people that were Trump's opponents, it's totally fine. It's totally looked the other way. It's only crimes that supposedly Trump or people connected to him that have committed that is taken seriously. Anyways, so these 302s, Flynn gets interviewed by FBI agents. One of the FBI agents was a man named Peter Strzok. Strzok's the agent that's famous for being able to smell Trump supporters in Walmart and wanting an insurance policy against Trump winning the election. So there's questions about him being involved in this. Now, what the 302 is his and the other agent's notes on the interview. We have this crazy system where you see all these shows like First 48 or all these Law and Order type shows where you actually record when you're talking to, the police will record when they're talking to witnesses or suspects. And so then you could use that recording when you go to court to say, this is what the suspect said. Well, the FBI doesn't do that. Instead, they don't have any audio or video recording when they interview witnesses or suspects, and instead take notes, and those notes are called their 302s. Those notes then become what would be used in court. This makes no sense because obviously memory from these agents could be fallible or they could be corrupt, and now we're relied strictly on their testimony, and we can't see the actual video or audio evidence of what they're saying. So let's ignore for the fact that we know that this guy's extremely biased that's compiling this 302, and let's just go ahead and assume, okay, it's basically true. The question becomes, now there's another thing that's important to know, that Andrew McCabe, who was one of the acting heads of the FBI at this point, has testified that none of these FBI agents nor him thought that there was a crime that was committed here. They didn't think Flynn was intentionally lying, in other words. There's a difference between intentionally lying and just not remembering something. Like, if you ask me, did you have ice cream for lunch last week? And I said, I don't think so. I don't recall that. That's not me lying. I could legitimately not remember. Now, if I say, no, I didn't have ice cream and I know full well I did, that would be a lie. The lie, it seems to be important to prosecute these lies when there are lies in order to hide some kind of crime. But there's no crime here. Flynn was allowed to talk to his counterpart in Russia. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. That's perfectly normal, in fact. Incoming administrations often talk to geopolitical rivals and allies. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And the thing that Flynn is supposedly accused of lying about is basically asking Russia, hey, don't freak out and retaliate as a result of these sanctions. That's it. That's the big lie. Now, that's somehow nefarious? That's somehow some sort of crime? Of course not. So why did the FBI feel the need to... They already knew what Flynn said. They had the recording of the phone call. So why did they feel the need to press him? Why, in other words, why are they searching for a crime to charge this man with? Well, it's because he was connected to Donald Trump. That's why. We know that Comey, in fact, has said just as recently as this last week that actually the way we did this, interviewing Flynn without a lawyer present, we would never do in any other administration. This was a totally unique situation. He said that in an interview. So we know that this was unique. We know that they were on a fishing expedition to do anything they could to get Trump. We could see through all the other actions that the FBI committed on how they went easy on Hillary and how they went hard on Trump, that they're doing whatever they could to get someone that they didn't like out. And Chuck Schumer told us the reason is because Trump shouldn't criticize the intel community because they'll find 6 ways from Sunday of getting back at you. So we know that's what was occurring. Anyways, so we have these FBI agents come. Flynn doesn't have any counsel with him, no lawyer, and they still end up determining, we don't think he lied. But then when Mueller comes in, he's like, no, we're going to say he lied, and we're going to turn the screws on him and then hope he flips on Trump. That's what he tried to do with everyone. So basically, they're creating this crime. Now, you could have done this. Why weren't they? There's tons of people that talk to foreign diplomats all the time. For example, John Kerry, who's not an incoming diplomat, is over talking to Iran about the Iran deal all the time. Where are the FBI agents knocking on his door asking what these conversations are? And could they charge him with any misstatement? I don't know. But now, let's get into the meat of this video, which is the actual 302. So I have it brought up here. I'm not really used to doing this kind of video. I hope the format works, but you should be able to read along with me. I'll read it, but I'll have to briefly flip and scroll down. So I've skipped down to like page 6, which is the relevant part. Everything above here is just talking about Flynn had talked to Kislyak in ways that he really wasn't being questioned about several times before this. Just like kind of, hey, how you doing? Sorry, one of Kislyak's family members was killed. Like, my condolences. None of that was really shady. So here's the part about the sanctions where Flynn's accused of lying. And I'm reading it. The interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any action with Kislyak surrounding the expulsion of Russian diplomats or closing of Russian properties in response to the Russian hacking activity surrounding the election. Flynn stated that he did not. Then it goes on to say, reiterate. Now, the important thing in this, it says the interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any such conversations. Flynn says no. In other words, according to this, Flynn doesn't recall these conversations. Okay, that's not a lie. Remember, how many times just last week did we see in Comey's testimony the transcript of him over and over saying, I don't recall, I don't recall, I don't remember that. Same with Hillary Clinton when she was interviewed by the FBI. Over and over and over, she says, I don't recall, I don't recall. Now, she wasn't charged, was she? Was she charged with lying? Of course not. Now, keep in mind, this is an aside, FBI agents said that they found Hillary's claim during her interview that she thought the little C on top of documents was just alphabetical order and didn't mean classified. They felt that statement defined credulity, which means they felt she lied to them. So in that case, we had the FBI feeling that her, people like Mills, Abedin, other people connected to Hillary's campaign, they were absolutely certain that they were lied to, yet no one was charged there. In this case, we have the FBI agent saying, we don't think Flynn was charged, or we don't think Flynn was lying, and yet Mueller charges him. You starting to see the double standard here? So far we have Flynn saying, no, I don't recall. Then we got a little jibber jabber going on. Let me scroll down here. Now, the next relevant part. It says, the interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any conversation with Kislyak in which the expulsions were discussed, where Flynn might have encouraged Kislyak not to escalate the situation, to keep Russian response reciprocal, or to not engage in a tit-for-tat. So this is them asking again about this conversation. Now keep in mind, they already know about the conversation. They know exactly what Flynn said. So they're asking him here merely as to see if he's telling the truth. And so they say, like, what they're asking here is like, okay, did you discuss with Kislyak the sanctions, or ask them not to freak out over the sanctions, or not to have a tit for tat? Now, even if Kislyak had made this discussion, that hardly seems something that's very nefarious. I mean, I have no love for Hillary or Obama or any of that. If I suddenly found myself talking to a Russian ambassador, I would say, like, hey man, don't freak out over actions they took. I don't want to see some kind of conflict. Seems to be a reasonable thing to say. Not in our country, though, not in Washington, where the prevailing narrative is we need to have an escalation in conflict with Russia. God forbid someone get in and try to be like, hey, let's leave cooler heads prevail. No, that's a huge crime. And this deep state where the media and academia and all these cultural institutions, including the Democratic Party and the establishment and the Republicans, want to have this massive escalation with Russia. No, that's a big no. So they asked Flynn, did you say this? Flynn responded, not really. I don't remember. It wasn't don't do anything. Not really. I don't remember. It wasn't don't do anything. So again, he's saying, no, I don't remember that. Right? That's another way of saying, I don't recall. Like, he's blatantly saying it. Now, keep in mind, Flynn was under the assumption he didn't realize that this was kind of like him fighting for his life. He thought he was just having kind of a civil discussion. And even here, though, he's not using the most correct legalese you would ask for, but he's saying, I don't remember. That's not saying absolutely this never occurred. That's not a definitive statement like that. He's saying, no, not really. I don't recall. I don't remember that. So that was supposedly that. It says, Flynn then says that all this was a surprise to him. He didn't know how many sanctions were occurred. Now, the FBI agents are going to ask Flynn for a third time, because again, they have the conversation. So let's assume Flynn's telling the truth and he doesn't remember. The FBI's like, okay, listen, we're trying to jog your memory, basically. Did you say this? So they're asking him for a third time. Here's what they say. The interviewing agents asked Flynn if he recalled any conversation with Kislyak in which Kislyak told him the government of Russia had taken into account the incoming administration's position about the expulsions, or where Kislyak said the government of Russia had responded or chosen to modulate their response in any way to the U.S. actions as a result of the request by the incoming administration. In other words, look, did you have a conversation with Kislyak like, what is Russia going to do? What does Russia feel about these sanctions? What does Russia think Trump's going to do? Or here's what Trump will do when he gets in there and how he'll deal with this. Here's Flynn's response. Flynn stated it was possible that he talked to Kislyak on the issue, but if he did not remember doing so. So he's admitting right here, yeah, that could have happened, but I just don't remember. That's it. That is what's been called a lie to the FBI. That's the big bombshell. That's what made this man a horrible criminal. Now, if you're honest with yourself, you know full well that much worse than this has been said by almost every single prominent figure that's had to go under oath in front of Congress or the FBI in the past couple of years. We know this over and over. People say, I don't recall. I guess it could have happened, but I don't remember. That's said all the time. That's the joke. No one ever wants to just come out and be honest because you just either take the fifth or you say, I don't recall, I don't recall, I don't recall. And you just repeat that over and over. So my question is, if Flynn, by saying, yeah, that could have happened, but I don't remember, is a criminal and lied to the FBI, when are we going to start seeing convictions of people like Comey and Hillary and others that have said that over and over? I don't remember, I don't recall. Now, I can't see the actual transcript of Kislyak and Flynn's conversation. That hasn't been released. It was leaked to media outlets. It was a crime. But, of course, again, that's not being investigated. But we have to ask ourselves, this is the serious crime. Now, it's smart people watching that are opposed to me and what I'm saying will say, but Flynn pled guilty. So it doesn't matter what your interpretation of this is. Yes, Flynn pled guilty because we have a system where the accusation by a special counsel or the FBI can ruin your life. It literally costs you millions of dollars to defend yourself, could take years, and you could potentially be looking at decades in prison. Also, there are reports that they were going after Flynn's son for unrelated crimes that had nothing to do with Russia collusion or anything like that. So basically, Flynn fell on the sword to protect his family, to not go extremely bankrupt, which it did cost him tons of money already, and he didn't want his son to get in legal trouble. Now, you might say, well, hey, his mistake. He should have just left his son pay for whatever supposed crimes he committed. But that's not really what we're talking about here. We're talking about how the FBI and Mueller set up a trap in an unethical way to try to get someone. And now they're heralding this as, look at this criminal that Flynn was. He's such a liar. Because he said, I don't remember? This is just indicative of why special counsels and the FBI in general are bad in the way they go about these things. Keep in mind, the FBI agents didn't think that Flynn was intentionally lying here. They thought, okay, maybe he doesn't remember. Now, we don't even know what the transcript says. Maybe this conversation was just, he literally was like, hey, man, and tell Putin not to lose his stuff over these sanctions. Could have been something that quick. We don't know. But it doesn't seem like him saying, I don't remember saying that, was a cold, hard lie. Every step of the way, this has been done to be a total double standard. We know that the intel community doesn't like Trump. We know that they've soft-pedaled everything they could on Hillary. We know that they're going after Trump people, charging them with the very crimes that they let Hillary's people off for. This is just another example of the shady tactics that they're willing to use. Is this the kind of system we want? Do we want a system where if you're questioned by the FBI and you legitimately say, I don't recall, or they could, like other people have been charged with lying to the FBI, for example, or will be charged, like Jerome Corsi is saying that his big lie, Jerome Corsi saying his big lie was they asked him about emails and he said, yeah, here's the emails I have. And they basically were like, actually, there was one more you didn't tell us about we know of. And he was like, oh, you're right. Can I amend that? And they were like, sure, because he legitimately forgot about this email. So they allowed him to amend his statement. And then they came back to him later and said, we're not going to allow that amendment statement unless you flip on Trump. And he was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That was his crime. Cohen's crime was, he said, yeah, I stopped talking about these events in January of 2017, but in reality it was June of 2017. So he got some dates wrong. That was his big crime. Is that the system you want? That you could be, if the FBI decides they don't like you or a politician you're working for, they could grill you for 40 hours straight, and if you mess up one date, or if you say something like, I don't recall, I don't think that happened, then you could be charged, lose your entire wealth that you've accumulated, possibly face years in jail. But remember, that's only reserved for people that the intel community doesn't like. If you're connected, if you're part of the establishment, if you're someone connected to Hillary Clinton, then you're allowed to lie to the FBI. You get full immunity, like Mills and Aberdeen. Then your evidence will get smashed by the FBI with hammers so that nothing embarrassing can come out about you. Then you're allowed to destroy subpoenaed evidence. You're allowed to not be a registered foreign agent and still lobby on behalf of foreign governments, even with people connected to Trump, like Manafort, right? The Podestas are allowed to lobby with Manafort for the exact same foreign agents. Manafort gets in trouble, is going to go to jail for it. The people connected to Hillary get to sign a couple papers and be gone on their way. This is over and over and over. So again, you've seen all my videos on that, though. So yeah, just specifically on this 302. Now, maybe there's more that will come out, but my reading on it on the sanctions, and that's what's been talked about, was the crime. That he lied about discussing sanctions with Kislev. That was the horrible thing. Because we were led to believe what was happening was that, Russia stole the election with Trump, and Russia's guy Flynn's on the phone with the Russian ambassador going, don't worry, we know that you helped steal the election for us, and as soon as we're in power, we're going to remove all punishments that could happen to you. In reality, that's not what was discussed at all. What was discussed was like, hey man, if it's even true, hey, don't freak out. Tell Putin and them not to freak out over these sanctions. We don't want a tit for tat. Basically asking him to ask Putin not to sanction the United States. That's the terrible crime. That's the crime we're talking about. Him saying, I don't remember. That's lying to the FBI. So, yeah, it's just another example. I encourage you to read. I'll link the document. I encourage you to read it yourself. But, yeah, to me, just looking at it, it doesn't seem... When they said that he blatantly lied, I was expecting, when I read the 302 at least, for it to say, like, yeah, this guy, we kept asking him. He was like, no, that conversation never happened. And we kept being like, are you sure? No, never happened. Instead, he's saying things like, I don't recall. I guess that could have happened, but I don't remember. And that's what we're told these terrible lies are. Just another example of crazy corruption coming out of the Mueller camp and the FBI. So... if you like this video, please like and subscribe. Check out some of my other videos. Please tell other people about my channel if you like it. I'm growing at a slow pace. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really thankful for all of you that give feedback. Look for more videos like this where I kind of do videos or documents that you'll actually be able to read. And as always, I'll be doing a live stream every Friday at noon Eastern Time, US. So, all right, thanks everyone. Have a good one.